Charges have been filed in municipal court of Kansas City charging Raiders receiver Davante Adams with misdemeanor assault. We've all seen what happened at the end of the Monday night game in which the Raiders lost a very frustrating game. Davante Adams had a very good night, but he also had a bad play, a third down very late in the game in which he was originally ruled to have made a catch, and then it turns out he bobbled it, and they ruled him out of bounds, and he didn't like the call, and then the last play of the game, they completely botch a route, and he gets knocked down by his teammate. It's a horribly frustrating game that they lost, and walking off of the field in a move that you absolutely cannot make. I mean, in a move that everyone, including Davante Adams himself, acknowledged was completely wrong. He shoves a camera guy or a member of the crew, someone who was there working actually for ESPN, just sort of walks by him. And I think in Davante Adams' explanation of it, he seemed to think the guy just kind of jumped right in front of him. If you see it back, that's not what actually happens. The guy's walking sideways, walking perpendicular to where Davante Adams is walking, and he does walk directly in front of him without looking. And I can understand why Davante Adams might feel like the guy just kind of jumped right in his way, and he just shoves him, two-hand shove, and the guy goes down. And the conversation that immediately ensued was, what will the league discipline be? Will he be suspended for a game? And now the conversation shifts enormously with Davante Adams being charged with misdemeanor assault. The actual citation, if that's what it's called, is that the right word?
Yes,
the citation is available. I'm not going to read anybody's name or address on here because I don't think they should be public. I certainly don't think that his address should be public, but they actually have Davante Adams' home address on this citation that is now available for anyone who wants to see it on Twitter, which is problematic. I'm not going to read it to you, but I am very cognizant of the fact that anyone who wants to see it can now find it. So we have that. So frequently we have conversations about whether or not we would want to see legal charges brought involving anything that happens on a playing field. The last time I remember having this conversation was when Myles Garrett swung a helmet at the head of Mason Rudolph in that Thursday night game, and you wondered, could he be charged with a crime? Mason Rudolph's, it's his actual helmet, so his head is bare and exposed, and Myles Garrett swung a helmet and hit him in the head with it. He could have really seriously hurt him. Everyone is incredibly lucky that Mason Rudolph was not much more seriously injured than he was from that. And I remember one of the conversations that we had afterwards was, should he be charged with a crime? Now here's another one where he shoves a person walking off the field, a person who is a credentialed employee. I want to make clear that I'm in no way defending what Davante Adams did. You can't do it. And I have been one of the people on that sideline a million times. I covered the Chicago Bears as a beat for 4 seasons, the better part of 4 seasons. I was on the sideline for every single game they played over the course of that time. Let me explain quickly how that works if you are a reporter like me covering the game. We watch the game in the press box, and then with 5 minutes left in regulation, they allow all those reporters to come down to the field because many of them want to do interviews on the field, and for everyone else, it just takes time to get down there. Most press boxes, you have to take an elevator. There's an amount of time that it takes. So with 5 minutes left in the game in regulation, people like me would be, I don't know if this is still the way these things are done. I haven't done this since 1996. So for all I know, these are completely different rules now. But that's the way it would work. So what I'm trying to say is there are a lot of people on that sideline at the end of a game who weren't there when it began. Now, this particular person, I don't know who he is, but I've seen him, and I can see the things he's carrying. He looks like a person who is part of the broadcast crew. So he probably was there for the entire game. And not that that necessarily makes any difference, but one way or another. That guy, he does have some obligation to make sure he's not walking directly in front of anyone. But again, I'm in no way trying to blame him. Davante Adams is fully to blame. The only thing I can say is, if that were me, if I were the person who walked in front of a player in the moment after a devastating loss, and that player gave me a two-hand shove and I went to the ground, I would definitely not press charges. I'm not saying there's nothing a player might do. If the player shoved me to the ground, then jumped on me and started wailing on me with punches, then that would obviously change my perspective. But that is far from what happened here. Again, I'm not sitting here telling this person what he should or should not have done, but charges are not brought unless a person is pressing them in this case, unless there's something here that I'm missing. I have to assume that the man who was shoved down by Davante is pressing charges, that was an option that he was given. Again, that's his option. I'm not going to tell him he's wrong. I feel like the only thing I can think of immediately to say is that if the roles were reversed and the exact same thing happened, I would be fully willing to accept an apology. If Davante Adams sought me out, which he did do, he apologized in the locker room after the game. He tweeted an apology. If Davante Adams, and maybe I would actually appreciate it if he made the effort to reach out to me directly on the phone or whatever it is. But however it went, if he said, hey, I'm sorry, it was the heat of the moment, I know I shouldn't have done that, I really hope you're not hurt, and I feel bad about it, it would absolutely end there with me. Now, that's just me. It's not my place to tell anyone else what they should do in this circumstance. I also don't know if there were any meaningful injuries suffered by this person. Is that something that is known?
Well, I can read to you what's on the citation.
Please do.
At least. It says, let's see here, push him to the ground using two hands, causing whiplash and headache, possible minor concussion. That is the only detail that is provided on the citation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, sorry, you caught me in the mid-sip of water. Look, it's terrible. It's terrible. I do not want anyone to come away from this conversation saying Mike Greenberg diminished how bad it was what Davante Adams did. I'm not diminishing it. It's something you can't do.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.